Here we go with game two of Loud versus Gigabyte Marines. Loud completely stomped that game, especially through the bot lane. It was a fantastic draft. I'll give GAM that advantage that they got for themselves. But you can't int level two, right? That one little miss in execution where they gave up level two early and yet went for the fight, and Zaya missed two auto attacks essentially. Means that they fell behind in that trade, and that was the difference, right? Kaisa did not die, Zaya did. We saw a checkmate from bot lane, so we'll see if we can get any sort of similar lead pronunciation from this game. We have Zaya and Rakan, lethal combination. Rel has been a little bit nerfed, but she is very strong. She's also a big flex pick. They're able to get themselves Lee Sin to play into Nocturne for this draft. Lee Sin is a strong champion. We expect to see more of them. Ahri, a little bit, another one of those D tier champions that has been nerfed enough compared to when she was strong, but is a champion that these people are going to be comfortable on. And we saw Caddy on Ahri. I believe he was an Ahri main when he came up in solo queue. Very strong on the champion, but I think that there's going to be a little bit of a champ diff with Orion and Ahri here. Also interesting to just see this matchup in general. Let's see how they end up playing this wave. They're letting it come to their side so that they get the reinforce faster. It looks like they're actually going to allow for level 2. They're not even fighting for it. Sometimes you'll see Zaya cast their Q through the wave to get lots of AoE onto the minions here and allow them to go for the push. But basically, it looks like Rel Kaisa are know that they have the threat for the all-in, so they're just creating a slow stacked push here. Kaisa's going for last frame, last hits, which means that they'll be able to wait for the cannon here, and they'll be able to get this wave in. So my question for you, now that you've got this push, you've got this situation, Lee Sin's pathing bot, how do you approach the rest of this lane phase? Pause the video, and you guys, I'll give you guys a couple seconds. You can put it in the comments. What do you think you would do here as GAM? Knowing, let's assume that you know that Nocturne's pathing is way bottom, but you may not. But you definitely know that Lee Sin started top and is coming down here. What would you do? So they're going to look to start crashing this. They're going to hold the advantage for a little bit longer. A little bit of frame perfect. Again, they want last frame, last hits. Rel will finally start using charges here. It's not up to Kaisa. You want to let Rel get those hits. And then they're going to look for this fourth wave to crash in together. And with that jumbo crash, you actually protect yourself against a Nocturne gank. Even if Nocturne were going to go 4 camp or 3 camp into bot lane, you have the XP lead. You'll be able to hit level 3 first. Plus you have the protection of the cannon. One of the mantras that they use in pro play, fighting before items. If you haven't backed yet, the cannon counts as an extra champion. Okay, we got that one from Arrow. You guys can check out his Twitch stream. It's Arrow IOI. He has a fantastic educational stream. You guys should check it out. But basically, when you have the cannon, you have such a tremendous advantage in the fighting stats. The buffs that it gives to the minion wave also means that if the fight goes in your favor, that wave is going to annihilate the next one, and the cost of losing is tremendous. Nocturne ends up going for a full clear, which is a fairly common play. Nocturne not dodging the Lee Sin, this is not something that you can afford to do. Yeah, it has to use his flash. You cannot take that fight. One of the reasons you want Lee Sin into Nocturne is to get in his face, take everything away from him after this first clear. Lee Sin is going to be shadowing everything that Nocturne does and trying to be proactive to get in their face. We'll see how effectively he's able to do that, though. Levi on Lee Sin, this is one of his signature champions, although it is worth noting that Nocturne was the one that got him his fame. Oriana's going to look very comfortable right here. We've got 2 sets of biscuits, meaning that we're going to be comfortable using spells for trade patterns and using biscuits to get your power plays. We see the power of Renekton into Cassante. We expect this to be a second wind and demolish setup from Renekton, although there is some deviation there. Sometimes they go for the unflinching, but based on the rest of the composition, there's just the fear, the slow, and the root. So I don't expect it to be unflinching. I suspect it's going to be second wind so that Cassante's a little bit of chip damage back to you can be punished. Now Renekton way up right here. Is he just trying to bait? No. Realizes that Nocturne's trouble for him and ends up having to use his flash. Now this wave is coming back. We'll see. All right. I don't like this play from the Renekton. Yes, you have your empowered Q here, and you get this push, right? But now it's stacked in. You could have instead just recalled on 38 CS rather than 44. And that should have been enough for him to get his itemization, which is probably an early plated steel caps here. Nope, opting for early Gourd Drinker, wants to take advantage of the stats in the item to kind of flex. Plated steel caps would give you that offense and defense modal application. I don't like that we have the item first here. Would have preferred to see plated steel caps against double AD top lane. Plus Xayah, oh right. So you could even consider, this is a game where you could consider anathemas. You can go with plated steel caps. You might even get something like Death Stance, fourth item-ish, plus your Sterix gauge, and then you can go with anathemas targeting Orianna, and then who's dealing damage to you. You should be in a really good spot. I prefer to see these modal items come out first, where you can play offense and defense, just like we said with Hex Drinker, for example. But we're not seeing that right now. Rel Kaisa going to have Prio on the Dragon, plus Ahri having a push advantage. Ahri having one of the best wave clears in the game early. Sometimes they even issue a point in one of their third abilities to get 2 points into Q, because that way it takes 2 Qs to clear the entire backline and 3 Qs to clear the entire wave. See how Xayah Rakan looks to play this. Rel exceptionally strong in these engages, but very little scaling apart from the ability to lock everyone down, right? So she's trying to lock everyone down. Xayah Rakan are going to be stronger in a prolonged fight. We'll see what the build combination is. Something that we haven't seen yet from Xayah's that we saw a lot last year was Serrated Dirk into the rest of the build. Just giving you that extra pop on the E damage when you do get that drawback. It very much, it's kind of like Kai'Sa last game that we saw from Umbroglaive. It is such a strong spike. Oh, very nice usage of Xayah Rakan there. You see Xayah blocking the W, knowing that her recall is timed on Rakan's recall. So you might as well block it. Then you step in, you press recall with Rakan, and they get back together. But yeah, using the early serrated Dirks that you have more threat with your all-in. Ooh, beautiful. Right off the bat. Punishing Renekton, and there we see the lack of defensive stats. Punishing Kiaya, and again, Kiaya oversteps, gets punished, basically with the information that's in front of him. Lee Sin's nowhere near. Kiaya is not respecting jungler proximity here. Has been mechanically outplaying the lane, but has also been inting back some of the kills. So this is something GAM is going to have to fix going into later stages if they want to make it out. It's gonna be tough. Luckily for them, this this setup with the new draw format, they're not going to be as penalized for an early loss. But they are going to have their backs up against the wall. They basically can't afford to do this in any of their other series, or they're going to get knocked out. Orianna Rakan getting Prio in mid and going for a dive in bot. Let's see if they go for a 3v1 dive. This is one of the answers you can do. The problem is it's Renekton, who has one of the best anti-dives in the game. Oh, but he uses his ultimate early for the fast clear. Maybe recognizing that the play is going to go to... coming very quickly, so he wants to clear the wave quickly. All right, but still ends up dying. I didn't see, did the ultimate wear out at the end? It'd be fascinating to see that. I do like the idea of, hey, I'm going to get dove, might as well clear this out quickly and then give myself an opportunity to back out. But 0 time wasted. Orianna, Rakan, and Xayah going in together, working together. All right, Robo surviving 2 iterations. He will die here, but actually surviving 2 iterations of this gank, drawing out extra ultimates is, ooh, so good. So good. Gets all 3 ultimates and an extra 20 seconds on that dive for his team to reposition. That means that GAM is going to get nothing off of this kill. Sure, they get the kill, they get the assists, but Xayah is going to be in time to pick this up. Plus, they're going to have to walk, they're going to have to retreat with their tail between their legs. Which means that they're actually susceptible potentially to Orianna roaming over. We'll see if Orianna comes over. Nocturne also has their ult. They might be able to make a play here. Ult in, good movement by Slater, but again, This back is being delayed tremendously. Imagine if instead that they had gotten a cleanly executed dive the way that Loud had done in bot lane. Cleanly executed, Kai'Sa's back in base. She's back on the map already. Instead, right now, she's just healing up in base, just getting her items and coming out. And unless you were right at the threshold of getting a completed item, which she's not, she's going to have to step out. And also worth noting, Slater going with Noon Quiver. This is going to be a theme for this tournament. We don't expect any Kai'Sas to go Noon Quiver to do well. There's very few situations where you actually want this build. I don't think they're going to have much success at all. It also looks like they got 3 different split components. So did they change their mind about builds? No, all right, they're just going for Static Shiv. Static Shiv is dead. Do not want to see it. Maybe, like we said yesterday, maybe on a Kali, maybe on some off-meta picks, but like the AP ratio being gone means there's no great reason to build it anymore. Only if you absolutely needed wave clear help, which is why we suggest Akali. It's really good for her lane phase. She has good, strong AD ratios early, and then it's a good, strong item to synergize with your Sork Shoes. And then you can go Shadow Flame next, so you have high spell pen to go along with the burst on the procs, and it's just like a decent combination of all factors, right? Then you can go with a mythic third item, but that said, you know, Akali hasn't shown up yet. She will show up for sure, especially once we start seeing more of these control mages plus Azirs of the world. Akali does have a decent time against them, but no, we actually see Stormrazor. Okay, so we see Stormrazor instead. Another kind of scuffed item. I don't know exactly what they want to accomplish with Stormrazor on Kai'Sa. We'll see if there's something special from this build, but I don't expect it to be anything great. Lee Sin versus Orianna is interesting. Do you ever commit yourself to that position and risk your team to die to a Shockwave? Probably not. Probably more about fighting the Nocturne and just being a better stat check. We do see Ludens picked up from Orianna like we wanted from the previous game. Also, we have this Null Magic Mantle, which is most likely going to be Merc Treads. Makes a lot more sense this game because of Kai'Sa's damage, Rel Lockdown being more stun-oriented, especially to lead off, plus Ahri's Charm, and likely to be Everfrost, and Renekton Stun. So all of those factors make it a little bit better to play for Merc Treads here. Do not want to see... Well, maybe they go for a Verdant or a Banshee's Veil as well. But I want to see more of that damage. Often we might see some amount of Archangels into Rabadons, but let's take a look at this pick. Xayah is unable to get into this fight. Love that they have Control Ward down in that bush, but they were not able to use it because they took the fight away from the Control Ward. See this Control Ward right here? This is the most important ward you can drop during a fight, is the Control Ward in the closest bush. All right, this is why you want to have one in your pocket when these fights break out, because your team's ability to get in and out of a fight and to be able to duck in and out of vision means that you can always maintain some form of strategical advantage and mechanical advantage, right? They don't know what they necessarily are facing when they step into that bush, whereas you do. But instead, they end up kiting to the right, so they get the engage pulled off. K'Sante ends up pulling an ultimate Renekton into the team, so they're not able to get anything else. That's kind of the worst case scenario. You do not want to get Renekton when he's already turned on Dominus. See the rest of the team here. Robo by himself zoning the rest of the team. All of GAM is coming over. I don't like that they've given up their flank here. All right, no, Nocturne's too far ahead. They're not going to be able to consolidate. Orianna doesn't look like she has her Shockwave available, so a little bit of a loose play from Loud there. Lee Sin, but my body's telling me yes. No, is able to not get baited by hitting the Resonating Strike. Loud wisely backs off. Lee Sin does not take the fight. We do see the plated steel caps here from Renekton. Wish I had seen that first, but now it's finally in. That's fine. This game, Iceborne Gauntlet, much better than last time because now you're playing against Renekton, Lee Sin, Kai'Sa. We might see the opposite true about K'Sante here. Probably won't see Anathemas because of the amount of tenacity. They don't really need as much tenacity breaking. on this comp, but you're probably going to see the fairly standard combination of items plus Gargoyle Stoneplate. This is a knock into the wall. They're easy to get the pallet kill. Yeah, you do not want this. Maybe they thought they could take this fight against Renekton, and maybe Renekton could have actually stayed in a little bit longer to try to hold down batten down the hatches for the team. This is Nocturne turning out the lights. Nearsighted, yeah, so they're actually unable to see the Lee Sin kick. That was a strong kick from Lee Sin, but without screen watching your teammates, you are unable to see that during the paranoia. That's something that Medios actually mentioned, that anytime he wasn't sure what was happening during Nocturne Ultimate, he would just peek over. He would peek over at Balls' screen and just be like, yeah, you're the top laner, you're in the middle of the fight, and he would just look over at whatever was happening on his screen. Something that you can do depending on how you're set up. Most of these arenas are set up with the same amount of spacing, but LOL Park and Korea, I think specifically, they're a little bit further apart, so that play might not be available. Also, they're sitting in a concave semicircle, so that's even less screen watching that's available to you. In LOL Park, if you don't know, all 10 seats are kind of in a semicircle like this, facing each other, and with a scoreboard, sort of like Jumbotron, available to them with a arena style seating. It's a very fun place to be, and it gives a cool dynamic, but it does mean that some of those differences, if you're used to being side by side, like on the LCS stage in Los Angeles, if you've been there, it's more like this. It is 5 flat, and it makes like the top half of a trapezoid, and then a rounded bottom for the stage where they can do the interviews, and then they have more like theater style seating in front of everybody, whereas this is an arena around everyone with 5 semicircle convex, shaped like this. Not actually sure whether or not they can or can't see, but I'm going to imagine it's at least harder to see your teammates' screens during Nocturne Ult. Kind of changes what you can do if you're used to practicing and be like, I don't know what's happening, let me peek, and then suddenly you just can't do that. That is a consideration to make, right? A lot of times that's something when you're coaching, if we're talking about what do coaches do to prepare their teams, they should create an arena or a moment to go into that arena so that their team can see it, so that they can see what it's like, especially if they've never been there before, and you do visualization exercises. Most of these teams employ a performance psychologist, which is, sports psychology. What is Zaya doing? You are not allowed to do that. She was killing that scuttle crab in front of a control ward. But like I was saying, most of these teams have a performance psychologist that can set them up with a visualization exercise, and you can actually look and plan ahead. You can say, all right, what's it going to be like? It's a little bit cold in there. You're going to be surrounded by fans. When you're sitting down, there's people at your back, which is not common for most arenas in the world. Most of them are stage and theater. This is different. This is surround seating. So if you're not used to having people behind you, that can be kind of bizarre, right? And just having that moment where you picture that, you put yourself in that surroundings, it will make you more comfortable. It is a proven performance enhancer to do visualization exercises. We've done a discussion about it. We've actually put up some videos about Russell Wilson and visualization, and then the time that the Patriots were able to visualize against him, and they were able to see even players who never got a rep in a position, like Malcolm Butler, Brandon Browner, right? The famous pick in the end zone, one of the most impactful plays in the history of the NFL, was done by preparation, right? It was all prep. And that's the level, that's the role of coaching, especially your advanced coaches and your scouts. They're trying to picture what could happen, your performance psychologist, what situation might you be in? Anyways, let's get back into game. We've got 2.5K gold lead. We don't have second item spikes yet. So this is really going to favor the fact that there are no champions on spikes here. For Loud means there's no real container. They are able to isolate Renekton. Pallet's going to step back. They actually get this kill at no real cost, which means Robo's going to go in. Yeah, fantastically done. They actually played that paranoia to perfection. They used paranoia As Renekton's flanking, which forces Renekton into a retreat, they engage on Renekton. Sure, they give up the dragon, but they're able to get the kill for themselves. And now this Renekton, despite having a big lead, is 0-3 and is not able to consolidate it in the way that they like. Not only that, but they actually catch Caddy on a missed rotation, stepping out, thinking that it's safe. Look at the hilarious amount of wards that they have out here. This is preparation for paranoia if I've ever seen it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 wards at 11. Is that 11? 12, 13. 13 sources of vision around the dragon pit to prepare for that. Versus 0. Yikes. All right, Kai'Sa's going for a Rageblade. Storm Razor into Rageblade. Cannot say that I've ever seen this, actually. It means that the original proc, you're going to get that extra movement speed. Then you're going to follow up. You've got a little bit of extra on-hit damage. This is very much about the first hit. I don't like this as a continuation build. You're not even going to get that much. This seems like someone who doesn't want to build Static Shiv, but is going for the next thing. I don't know. This is, some analyst probably came up with this. I can't say that I agree with it. It'll be interesting to see what the rest is. I'll be happy to be proven wrong, but I expect this Kai'Sa to be not a liability, but weaker than they should be. Now, taking stock of the rest of the items, we have Radiant Virtue, and we have 2 items across the board for everyone except for Ahri. Ahri is going to be grabbing Horizon Focus most likely here. Has the Everfrost. Conversely, we're going to have Shadow Flame plus Luden's Echo from this Orianna, which I love. Recognizing that as the sole AP threat on the team, it is your duty to deal the most amount of damage. It also means that you'll be able to do a lot with the Nocturne dive. Nocturne and Rakan can dive up ahead. Rel whiffs the engage. Let's see what happens on the rest of this fight. It looks like Lee Sin just goes for a kick disengage. Renekton getting into the team. That is a huge buff. Wonderful. Kiaya carrying this fight. Okay, this game is in hand for GAM. Let's check out their end game strategy here. This is something that we spoke about yesterday with Garen, and we mentioned Garen and Renekton. Juggernauts in general are the most preferred champions for the Chem map. All right, Chemtech map gives you those extra sources of move speed, extra sources of explosive dashes, gap closing. The fact that you can use the fruits for move speed, the fact that you can use the Scryer Bloom for move speed, the fact that you can jump over large walls that you normally couldn't do. Renekton taking full advantage of that, diving into the team. We're going to see this. Look at this position. Has a control ward for himself. This is very important. You can't see it right now, but you saw it a second ago. This Renekton is looking with Rel going forward. He wants to pop himself over this wall with the blast cone. He's going to get right in the middle of the fight. Casante's not quite in position. They're going to be able to hit all 4 champions. And this is with Rel whiffing. Okay, worth noting. Now, that said, we can still call this a zoning ult because we know everyone's running away. Just because you miss your ability does not mean that you have to back off. It does still mean that these guys are going to corral themselves in this angle, which is exactly what Renekton wants. And it's totally fine for Ahri and Lee Sin to play in a front-to-back pattern right here. Boom, pops in, uses the ultimate immediately, stuns up en route. You get the kill onto Xayah. Almost no counterplay available right there. And he continues forward using Sterix Gauge, using those item spikes. Beautifully done by Kiaya. And beautifully done by all of GAM. Fantastic done. So now they've got Baron in pocket. Dragon's coming up in a minute. I do want them to get extra structures down before they go for this. You may see Renekton go for one more wave in the top side just to get that push in. You want to deny that experience from them. So expect him to take this wave and then come across. We are going to try to position Renekton in middle and 4 people in bot wave. That gives you the optimal position for taking down this inner turret, the tier 2. You see a wonderful line of vision here by the Rakan being dropped, saying, I want to have some amount of vision of where you go. Part of this is due to the changes in Sweeping Lens. You don't have as much time with Sweeping Lens active to deny all the vision anymore. It's not so much about having just 2 sweeping lens and being able to get rid of all the vision in an entire quadrant. Normally you have way more. Look at this play by Robo. He's actually able to pull them back into his team. They get the paranoia that makes the team entirely incapable of fighting because they can't see the fight. He's going to continue forward because he's got Orianna ball and the shockwave is up. She's going to be able to dash him forward. He's going to keep on going with the all out. It looks like Ari's able to get the spacing to back out. But that means that Loud is actually able to get this dragon for themselves despite being down 5k going into that fight. A wonderful fight by Robo, finding that engage, using Q3 flash to get the isolation onto Slater. And again, we see Slater just not contributing enough. This entire series has been the weak point for this game and for this match. Let's check it out again. K'Sante has Q3, Flash W. You can no longer do this, by the way. Flash W is an instant cast on this patch. Now you have to wait 2/3 of a second before you can do that on live. But he's able to go W flash right on top, immediately hit them with the stun, which means that your Q3 auto hits, which means that your ultimate auto hits, and you're able to pull them back into the rest of the team. So wonderful, wonderful exhibition of what K'Sante can do. Happy to see that level of play. That said, still down 5k. They have evened out on the Dragons. We've seen how well they're using Paranoia and how well Robo is playing. Also, the fact that he has this Gargoyle Stoneplate for himself means that he's going to be a menace when the lights turn out. What are you going to do about K'Sante? Because you don't know, especially if K'Sante pulls you away from your team during the Nocturne Paranoia. This is one of the main reasons these champions get played together. It's because it's very hard to keep track of the vectors and directions that people could be coming in. Not only that, but we have Rakan and Orianna. So you see how this team composition is going to come alive. It's going to be very easy to play. Not only that, but we're going to have fall-offs here, right? Rageblade is the highest scaling Kai'Sa build as far as damage over time. But again, paired with Stormrazor, I don't know that we're actually going to get this. Looking for a Nashor's Tooth on hit build, it looks like they want these 3 items to get the like very cute triple evolve all at the same time. But is that going to be enough? Lee Sin's going to fall off, Renekton's going to fall off, Ari's going to fall off. Even Rel is going to be less effective when you're trying to guess your ultimate versus a Nocturne and a K'Sante. So ease of execution is definitely going to be in favor of Loud, as is kind of always true when you have Nocturne versus Lee Sin. And you have a very easy go buttons, right? Rakan, Nocturne, Orianna, together. Press your ultimates. Let's see, Robo being a boss. What can he do? Ends up just stepping up. He's going to be a huge problem. How are they ever going to answer this? It looks like he's going for a Randuin's, which is sort of bizarre because there's no crit damage being dealt. None. You normally get Randuin's to beat crit, and you might have expected to build that based on the early Stormrazor. But this is versus Rageblade. Rageblade's going to replace all your critical with on-hit damage. And so I don't think Randuin's is necessarily the best. That being said, it does give you access to an extra slow. But when we compare that to getting Frozen Heart, which would completely blank this slate, right? Full stacked armor against Lee Sin and Renekton, they can't touch you. You're nerfing attack speed against the Rageblade Kai'Sa. I do think that Frozen Heart would have been a better build, and then you can go Anathemas to target the Ari. Even though she has true damage on the second half of her Q, that's not enough of a reason. You have plenty of health through the rest of your build to be strong there, and then you just use the Anathemas to blank everything else that she's doing. Still expect to see it with this armor stack build, and Randuin's will be good at crowd controlling. But this is a huge scaling advantage, and 5k may not be enough to cut it, especially with this Kai'Sa build. Yeah, it's cute. Congratulations, you've turned on all 3 of your evolves, but have you actually accomplished anything by having the extra invis or the extra reset on your W? You don't have any like noticeable damage from your W coming out, especially with K'Sante being in the middle of the team. It is an armor stacked K'Sante, so it will hit him maybe a little bit hard. I mean, it will hit him harder than it otherwise might have, but it's still probably not going to be enough. And how do you ever get enough auto attacks off to ever proc your passive as Kai'Sa this game without the setup from Rel? You're going to have to be dealing. Look at this Robo right in the middle of the team. He's happy to take this juncture and cannot be moved off of this space. Taking all this damage, soaking everything, making it so that his team can play back, dodge all the long-range skill shots. He's just up in front. He is playing like a boss. This 3-item Cassante is enormous. Not only that, but he's got all the kind of hidden stacks. Lee Sin going for a big kick, but it's not enough versus Orianna with a stacked shield. She's got enough AP to give herself a big shield, and they're not going to get enough here. Sterix Gage is procced, but they've procced themselves in a good position, and Robo is immovable. He just holds down the entire front line and then swings that fight, pulling Kai'Sa off to the side. Wow. Loud. So they're able to find the fights for themselves. They're expertly playing these fights, and this has been the scouting report on this team. They often go 50-50 on whether or not they actually win early games, even in their region. Even being a dominant team, they largely do it with their own team fighting ability, and they are just doing it from cleaning up the team fights, not from early game stomping. And Robo showing just being a boss in these fights. Really good synchronization. Nocturne and Orianna working together. The spacing is fantastic. You see how they're using this like arrowhead point formation where you have like an arc of space behind Cassante, and then you have your threats in and alongside that arc spaced out so that AoE is not going to hit them. And then you just have this big boss in front. Now let's see. The fact that he dodges the charm is crucial here. You do get chain CC, but where's the damage coming from? This build from Kai'Sa is no damage. You don't have the Rel able to consolidate off of everybody because the lights are out and it's confusing enough. Will this still be good enough against the best teams in the world who are much better at playing with and against Paranoia? We'll see. But Loud showing some very nice strength, and Robo showing confidence and knowing his role very well. So now the game is in their hand. The scaling advantage is with them. They're going to pick up all of this standing gold. All right, you're going to see the mid tier 2 dropped. You're going to see the top inner drop. Top outer has already been dropped. Where ultimates are back up. So Rakan, Orianna, Nocturne is back online. Nocturne is going to be the threat coming in from mid. This time you're not doing it with Cassante because unlike other times when we're talking about Renekton wanting to be the flanker, Nocturne has nothing to do if you put him here. It's worth noting that Nocturne comes here. You saw Orianna crash in bot. I will give them credit. Or sorry, not Orianna, Ahri. Ahri crashes in bot. You are taking away a resource from them. By crashing this wave in, though, you've actually created a point of weakness because now this is going to rebound. Yes, you've erased this wave, but this wave is meaningless for ending the game. This wave, you wanted to actually be slow pushing so it could come up and be here for longer in case this is a 50-50 fight, or if you end up in a spot where they just take this and then they maneuver their forces to the other side of the map. You don't want to have a rebounding wave. So yes, congratulations, you've gotten this spike. Unless you are actually getting exactly enough to finish your item, I don't want you to crash this wave in. You're better off just leaving it with a slow push. It gives you more presence on the map. That said, teleport's coming in. We've got Robo in position. Nocturne's getting ready to turn out the lights. And with the wave here and with the strength of these level 16 characters, I expect this to turn into a blow-up fight under turret. They probably don't even need to answer Ahri. They can probably just disengage by going forward. Instead, they just go for Robo Peel, ends up pulling the Renekton towards his team, isolating, getting a big chunk. Nocturne uses the Paranoia. All right, a little bit, could have been used a little bit better maybe. Maybe it had to be that just to stop Ahri from coming into the rest of the team. But again, with the lights turned out, how's the enemy team supposed to have any amount of team fighting confidence? Renekton's teleporting in behind them. Who's got the advantage? Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think wins this fight? And why? Nocturne slightly out of position. Kai'Sa a little bit out of position. Obviously, Kai'Sa can rejoin the fight. We have the scaling advantage from Loud, plus they have the Baron buff, the extra levels, and they've got the extra stats from the buff. Will Nocturne be able to get in? How are they going to approach this fight? You've got Rel. That's not really an important thing. The difficult factor to consider is that you're going to have to dive in a little bit versus an Orianna ultimate, and you still have Rakan, and you're playing against Xayah. All right, so Xayah's got all the self-peel in the world. It's going to be hard to one-shot this 2,500 HP Orianna, on top of the fact that she's going to have a massive shield. I didn't check, but I believe she has Rabadons right now, so that shield is absolutely massive. It's going to be hard to execute this fight. Plus, you're looking at level 15, level 11, level 15. You see these 15s right here? Those are not 16s compared to what we have on Xayah. So we're going to have a big feathers fly. They have Lord Levi. Yeah, unfortunately, this is going to turn into a scaling diff here. Look at what Robo's doing in the fight. He is peeling the entire backline. Kai'Sa is never able to go. And this is what we talked about. Prior to that first Nocturne ultimate, the best option for kiting was to kite inwards, right? You actually kite into their comp. Robo just taking over this game. Oh, he actually went for Abyssal. Interesting. Abyssal just so he can get the extra damage for Orianna. You know why he does that? Because no one's building MR because there's only one MR threat. So when people are sitting on, and specifically when the AD carry is sitting on 30 magic resist and you're sitting in combat with them, ticking away chunk after chunk after chunk, by the time the Orianna hits them, they're at 0, right? And so Robo's actually just taking this whole thing down, using Gargoyle Stoneplate to peel himself off. You might see a trade kill here, a little bit of an overstay with those HP bars. Means that Renekton's able to get something back for himself, but they did win the fight. I like the take. Lord Levi is a good call, but unfortunately it's Levi on Lee Sin, and enemy team has Nocturne. Kai'Sa going into the fight. Here we go, stepping up. They're kiting forward again, right? Orianna steps backward. They don't have enough damage, even passing through her, to do any amount of meaningful damage. And it means that they're able to step up. They're easily able to use the shields from Orianna to go up forward, and then Robo just carries the fight from here. Now, what's the play here? Tindones, are they just kind of weighing? They're trying to get maximum shields. I suppose this has to be the play, but look at how low they are in mana. That's the big issue. You're going against Renekton with only 2 to 3 spells available to yourself, and definitely no second rotations. Means that you don't have enough to carry this fight. Yes, Orianna's massive, and she's casting her second shockwave of the fight, but Renekton's getting his second Dominus off as well. You see the Abyssal Mask. We talked about this. Abyssal Mask Renekton is the tech that finally made it into the elite meta. The value of the Renekton ultimate, the Dominus damage, is so high that Abyssal Mask has its own value right there. Plus, it's going to help amplify the Kai'Sa and the Ahri damage, while being your one MR item for the one MR threat, right? So it's kind of the perfect item for Renekton's third or fourth, depending on team comps. But now we have a 1k gold lead, dragon lead. They've got the prio, they've got supers pushing into top, and teleport disadvantage. Ahri is the only one with the teleport available. Cassante is going to be an immovable object. I expect them to go 4 mid, 1 bot. To get the waves pushed into positions that they want. Expect for some deeper vision to be placed. Right now, they went for shallow because they lost that first fight. They're unsure how much turf GAM was able to take. No one's been in the south quadrant for about 4 minutes, right? So because no one's been here, you can't really be sure how many people came up. So instead, they go for a shallow ward line. They end up playing for the mid lane prio wards. This is allowing them to keep mid prio while seeing vision on their right flank, which is important for them to be able to hold this area in front of Dragon. So absolutely love the warding macro from Loud right here. Robo is going to be this immovable object, and we see the Anathemas was picked up. Could be on Kai'Sa, but almost definitely on Ahri. Lee Sin is able to get the steal here, but it's not going to be enough. Now, is it enough to hold down the win? It's 5 versus 4. Ahri was looking for a flank potentially, but Lee Sin getting this. The question's going to be, how much can enemy team take 5v4? The answer is going to be Baron into push. I don't expect them to go for Baron into reset, but they might because Rakan's out of wards. The downside to doing that would be that they're leaving supers to bleed into top lane, allowing for comeback gold from the carries, right? Ahri's able to pick these up. She's got no problem clearing out these supers. At some point, she's actually dealing, basically true damage to the super minions. They're opting for the immediate push. This is because they didn't even have to use any cooldowns with Lee Sin dead. And with Lee Sin gone for 10 more seconds, they're going to have access to this mid lane. Super is going to come in. Robo's going to hold down the fort. Again, your role as a tank in this position is to soak up crowd control. It's not necessarily to soak up the poke, although you can do that as well, but you don't want to get poked out. You just want to be in position to soak up all of the crowd control. 2 minutes left on the buff. That's enough time to get your recall in and to go back and to push bot. You see these double stacked supers up in top lane. That's going to require immediate attention from GAM. And now they're going to be stuck to that wave, but that is the last super coming in through this wave. So will they send a champion into this wave to create a slow push? You see a lot of vision laid down. This is left over from the Baron push. It's actually very interesting. Look at the amount of wards Loud has down. This is indicative that they actually kept yellow trinkets. And this might be an adaptation to the meta change with Sweeping Lens. The fact that Sweeping Lens no longer covers as much ground means that you can lay out more wards and have them continue for their vision. You save the Sweeping Lens for the one area where you absolutely want it. And if this is Loud's adaptation, and if they're known for team fighting and late game success, and they may be accomplishing it, then this might be a world take note sort of moment. If this is what they're doing that no one else is doing, then this could be a big factor, like astronomically huge. Oh, they found the Renekton. They're going to engage upon him. Flashing away means they've got no sight. Look at what Robo does, though. He stays in front of the rest of the team, allows for the 4 other characters to go after Renekton, means that there's nothing left. And this Ahri just tickles the Cassante, taking minimum damage. You see double shields being placed, means that he can tank up the turret. This is superior endgame macro from Loud. Great decisions are going to come over. They're probably going to go kill this topside wave. Orianna is going to try to teleport back in. Robo might also attempt the same thing. But basically, Orianna's going to look. Yeah, here she goes. She's already got the Void Staff, and she's going to have Rabadon's done. If she comes back into this fight, this game's over. They might chunk down this top turret, but that's not really consequential. They've got the game-ending push right here with the supers. Teleporting on top of the minion because my name is Robo, and I'm playing Cassante, and you can't stop me. Enemy team does the correct thing, which is hard engage, try to skip past. But again, how do you play with and versus Paranoia? And we see the Kai'Sa just damage. It's not there. This build is a very low damage build. It doesn't do anything particularly well. I hate the build. I hope that we don't see any more Kai'Sas with that build. But Loud just crushing it. Looks great. Super strong. And you see the Brazilian fans in the stands. There you get a chance to look at what the arena looks like. So Loud looking impressive, Robo looking great. Absolutely love their end game macro. And if there's one thing to take note of, Loud is keeping extra yellow trinkets, and they are swarming the map with wards, and they are using that vision advantage. And the fact that teams do not have enough denial available to them to take advantage. We'll see whether or not teams adapt to this and whether or not they adopt this and play it on. But that's going to be it. Loud wins 2-0.